Thanks, Shamu. Good evening. Yes, so we can start. Iconic. Iconic, you don't have to really explain that. This is one of the images. It comes if you start to looking in Budapest for brutalist architecture. There are not many more actually, so I think you are missing really interesting buildings. What we mean by iconics, it's a 60s, 70s, 80s, really nice period of architecture in not only Central Europe, but also worldwide. Bold, abstract, sometimes social, sometimes too communist, sometimes too ideological. But ruin, it's a state that these buildings are actually right now going through. And it's mainly because they are somehow irrelevant. They don't mean nothing anymore. The big institutions already are gone and they are left empty. But this should be about urban innovation and not about the history. So I think they were somehow innovative at the time. So this is the case from Berlin Schloss or Berlin Palace, and then the Palace of but it got turned around. So, but what's interesting for them and for the urban space, they somehow invented or introduced a new way where urban space is happening, above, under, inside, or in between. So they really leveled the city in a different way. But what's happening now, the context around them is really changing. This is the case of Wilhelmstrasse in Berlin, Czechoslovakian embassy, which is right there. The buildings are tough. They can actually live in any context. So we tried with the students to come up with some strategies to make them relevant again. So you can change the context. Sometimes only just by flooding them, not only by cars, which they were meant to, but you can flood them with Danube. This is another situation in Bratislava. It's actually a Congress hall for 1,000 people, one of its kind in Bratislava. We have no bigger one, but it was built by a developer and it will be developed. So how to somehow work with their interface with this new development. This is the Slovak National Gallery. Enhancement, a strategy we call, when you look at the qualities these buildings have. So this under something situation, and you can just work with it more and make it even more radical. Sometimes they are too visible. They have the best places in the city, Slovak National Archive, again Bratislava. What about to bring a residential program into them again, so they got the best views. As I said, they somehow lost their importance because they lost their institutional program, but you can start to fill them with a new institutional program, in this case Slovak National Radio building, filled with university campus, which is the context of the site there. Or they just need strong partners. We are not that radical as they were, but we could still be. Not just for the case, but to again multiply the floors or the surfaces you could use as a public space. Or you can just get inside and make the interface that was meant for the masses, for 1,000 people, again the case of the Congress hall, and make it a public but interior one, the same as here probably. They are empty, they are containers, but you don't have to touch the architecture, you just have to move something in again. In this case, Katowice, a former socialist communist party Congress center with a lot of cars in front. What about putting the cars inside and having the square again? This is again a Communist Party Congress Hall in Prague, a philharmonic. which should be transparent, tempting, inviting, with a new facade and reduction of mass inside. But sometimes you just have to accept that nostalgias are everywhere. So a modernist idea of a solitary city is run over by street-like thing. So just accept it and make a new building that has a inside yard. This is the Bezistan, a public infrastructure in Belgrade, leaking, but still working as a really nice shade in the city. So what about just enhancing the quality of leaking water by introducing new roofs and let the water cool down the space? I think we a little bit too late with this, or history just got to us. These buildings are already too trendy, so you would have them in MoMA or Deutsches Architekturmuseum. So, but in our case, this is Slovakia, we would be probably just in time. This is a really small city with a huge cultural center on the main square, which should be, or it was sold and then again bought by the city to have the original function there, so a culture hall. And the strategies we were researching in the school are somehow successful in implementing in the ideas of working with our cities again. Thank you.